The wind pushed through the broken bus stop shelter like it owned the night. Marcus Reed pulled his thin blanket tighter and tried to keep feeling in his hands. The cold concrete beneath him felt harder than usual. The air smelled like wet pavement and old exhaust from the traffic rolling down Western Avenue. He stared across the street at his reflection in a dark store window and barely recognized the man looking back. What he didn't know that night was that the thing he was searching for wasn't far away at all. It was hiding beneath years of failure, buried under stubborn persistence that refused to die. Marcus was 46 years old. 3 winters earlier, he had owned a small house on the south side of Chicago. Nothing fancy, just a brick home with a tiny front yard and a basketball hoop that leaned a little to one side. He had spent 18 years working at the same manufacturing plant. He showed up early, stayed late, never thought much about the future. The future seemed settled already. Then one Tuesday morning, everything changed. The plant manager called everyone into the warehouse. Marcus still remembered the smell of machine oil. He still remembered the nervous faces. "We're shutting down operations." That was it. A few more words followed. Nobody really heard them. People stood frozen. Some cried, some cursed. Marcus just stared. The drive home felt longer than usual. His wife, Denise, knew something was wrong before he spoke. "What happened?" "They closed it."
She looked at him. For a second, neither moved. Then she sat down. Neither knew how much that moment would cost them. At first, Marcus believed another job would come quickly. He had experience, he had a strong back. He knew how to work. That had always been enough. Except it wasn't anymore. Weeks became months. Interviews came and went. Applications disappeared into silence. A younger man got hired, then another, then another. The savings account shrank. Bills piled up. Credit cards filled. The stress moved into the house like an unwanted guest. Marcus and Denise argued more. Then every day. Then almost every hour. The house felt smaller. The future felt darker. One evening, she sat across from him at the kitchen table. The lights were off except for one lamp. "We can't keep doing this." Marcus knew what she meant. He just didn't want to hear it. But she said it anyway. "I'm leaving." The silence afterward hurt worse than the words. 6 months later, the divorce was final. A year later, the house was gone. Marcus rented a small apartment. Then lost that too. 1 missed payment became 2. 2 became 3. The eviction notice arrived folded in an envelope. He opened it, sitting alone beside a window. Outside, snow drifted across parked cars. Inside, everything he had built was ending. That was the day he became homeless. Not officially. Not yet. But in his heart, he already knew. The sheriff arrived 2 weeks later. A few belongings went into a storage unit.
Everything else disappeared. Marcus carried 1 backpack, 1 duffel bag, and a crocked phone. That was all. The first night outside felt unreal. He spent it sitting awake in a train station. He didn't sleep. Every sound made him jump. Every stranger felt dangerous. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Cleaning machines rolled across the floor. People passed without looking at him. He had become invisible. The next morning, he bought coffee with his last few dollars. The cup warmed his hands. For a few minutes, he felt human again. That became important. Small things mattered now. Very small things. Marcus created routines. Without them, he felt himself slipping. Every morning, he did 20 push-ups, no matter what. Rain, snow, exhaustion, didn't matter. 20 push-ups, then coffee, then the library. The library saved him more times than he could count. It was warm, quiet, safe. The librarians learned his name. One of them was a woman named Carol. She never asked questions, never looked down on him. One afternoon, she noticed him studying computer books. "You learning something new?" "Trying." "What kind of work?" "Any kind." She smiled. "Keep trying." Simple words, but they stayed with him. Most people stopped seeing Marcus. Carol didn't. Days turned into weeks, then months. Winters settled over Chicago like a punishment. The cold got into everything, his shoes, his bones, his thoughts. Some mornings his fingers hurt so badly he struggled to zip his backpack.
He learned which churches offered breakfast, which shelters filled first, which public bathrooms stayed open late. Knowledge became survival. The shelters smelled like bleach, sweat, and damp clothes. Cots stretched across large rooms. People snored, coughed, talked in their sleep. Some nights fights broke out. Some nights someone cried quietly into a pillow. Nobody asked many questions. Everyone carried their own story. Marcus met a man named Eddie there. Eddie had been homeless for 7 years. His beard was gray. His eyes looked tired. One night they sat together eating soup. "You got family?" Marcus nodded. "A daughter." "You talk to her?" "Every Thursday." Eddie smiled. "Good. That's all I got left." "No," Eddie pointed at Marcus. "You still got yourself." Marcus wanted to argue, but he couldn't. Every Thursday, Marcus called his daughter. Her name was Emma. She was 16. Those calls became sacred. Sometimes they lasted 5 minutes, sometimes longer. He never complained, never described the worst nights. He didn't want her carrying that weight. "You okay, Dad?" "I'm okay." Sometimes that wasn't true, but he said it anyway. After each call, he felt stronger, then weaker. Hope worked like that. It lifted you, then reminded you what was missing. Christmas arrived. Marcus spent it at a shelter. A church group brought food: turkey, mashed potatoes, pie. The volunteers smiled. Children handed out small gifts. One little boy gave Marcus a pair of gloves. The gloves cost almost nothing. Marcus wore them for 2 years. That night, he sat outside afterward. Snow drifted through the yellow streetlights. The city looked peaceful from a distance. He thought about old Christmas mornings. The house, the tree, Emma opening presents, the smell of cinnamon rolls. Memories hurt differently when you had nowhere to go afterward. He cried a little, then wiped his face, then stood up, because morning would come either way. A month later, he got a job washing dishes. The restaurant sat near downtown. The kitchen stayed hot. The work was hard. Marcus loved it. Not because of the money. The money barely mattered. He loved being useful, loved hearing someone say his name, loved having somewhere to be. For 6 weeks, things improved. Then the restaurant closed suddenly. The owner disappeared. Paychecks stopped. Just like that, Marcus was back where he started. He sat outside a gas station after hearing the news. Traffic rushed past. The sky looked gray. For the first time in months, he thought about giving up. Not forever, just enough to stop trying. The feeling scared him because it felt reasonable. That was the dangerous part. A lot of people know that feeling. Not homelessness, not poverty, just that moment. The moment when effort feels pointless, when another rejection seems unbearable, when getting out of bed feels heavier than usual. Marcus sat with that feeling for a long time. Then his phone rang. Emma. He almost didn't answer, but he did.
"Hey, Dad." "Hey, kiddo. You sound tired. Long day." "I got an A in math." Marcus smiled. "For the first time all day. That's my girl." She laughed. The sound changed something inside him. Not much, just enough. Enough was all he needed. He got up from the curb, started walking, and kept going. Spring arrived slowly. The snow melted. The city felt alive again. Marcus spent afternoons studying free online classes at the library. Basic computer skills, spreadsheets, data entry, things he never imagined learning. He filled notebooks with notes. His handwriting covered every page. Carol noticed. "You still at it?" "Trying." She smiled again. "Good." Weeks later, she handed him a flyer. Community college classes, free workforce program. Marcus stared at it. "You think I'm too old?" Carol laughed. "Not even close." That flyer sat inside his backpack for 3 days. He kept looking at it, then putting it away. Fear wasn't loud. It whispered, "You're too old. You'll fail. Don't embarrass yourself." Marcus almost listened. Almost. That mattered later. A lot later. Because some decisions look small when they happen, then change everything afterward. He signed up. Night classes started 2 weeks later. The classroom smelled like dry erase markers and old carpet. Most students were younger. Marcus felt awkward, out of place. But he showed up, then showed up again, then again. One night after class, he walked towards the shelter under a sky filled with low clouds. The city lights reflected off them. The air felt warmer. Something felt different, too. He couldn't explain it. Nothing had changed yet. He was still homeless, still broke, still carrying everything he owned. But something inside him had started moving. The way ice begins melting before anyone notices. The way sunrise starts before the sun appears. Marcus didn't know it then, but someone had already noticed him. Someone was about to give him a chance. And that chance would begin on one unforgiving December evening that seemed ordinary at first. He had no idea what was coming. The next December arrived colder than the last one. Wind swept through Chicago like a blade. Marcus left class that evening carrying his backpack and a notebook filled with notes. The sidewalks glistened from freezing rain. Traffic crawled beneath red brake lights. People hurried home with shopping bags and holiday plans. Marcus had neither. The shelter was 3 miles away. He started walking. His stomach growled. The only thing he had eaten all day was a breakfast sandwich from a church pantry. The cold seemed sharper than usual. His gloves were worn thin, the same gloves a little boy had given him the previous Christmas. He shoved his hands deeper into his pockets and kept moving. A block later, he noticed an older man struggling beside a pickup truck. The truck sat crooked near the curb. One tire looked flat. He kicked it once, then twice. Nothing changed. Marcus almost walked past.
Most people did. Then he stopped. Something told him to help. You okay? The man looked up. Depends how you define okay. Marcus smiled. The man smiled back. Need a hand? Sure. They spent 20 minutes wrestling with the tire. The wind cut through their jackets. Their breath floated white in the air. Marcus knew a little about vehicles from years at the plant, enough to help. Finally, the spare tire clicked into place. The man stood and stretched. Appreciate it. No problem. The man reached into his wallet. Marcus stepped back. No. You sure? Yeah. The man looked surprised. Most people would have taken the money. Marcus needed money badly, but something about it felt wrong. The man studied him for a second. What do you do? Marcus laughed softly. Right now? Yeah. Mostly survive. The man nodded slowly. Then he asked another question. One simple question. It changed everything. What did you do before that? Marcus told him. The factory, the layoff, the classes, the shelter. None of it sounded impressive. The man listened anyway. Really listened. Not the fake kind, the real kind. When Marcus finished, the man pulled a business card from his coat pocket. Call me tomorrow. Marcus looked down. The card read, Daniel Harper, Harper Logistics. Marcus frowned. Why? Daniel smiled. Because I think you might be useful. Then he climbed into the truck. A minute later, he was gone. Marcus stared at the card. Snowflakes landed on it.
He almost laughed. Life had fooled him before, too many times. Hope felt dangerous. He slipped the card into his backpack and kept walking. That night, he couldn't sleep. The shelter hummed with coughing and snoring. Marcus stared at the ceiling. Daniel's words kept replaying. I think you might be useful. Nobody had said that in years. Morning finally arrived. Gray skies, bitter wind. Marcus found a phone charger at the library, waited for his battery to reach 15%, then he called. A receptionist answered. She transferred him. Daniel picked up. You called. Yeah. Good. There was a pause. Can you come in tomorrow? Marcus sat straighter. For what? An interview. Marcus almost dropped the phone. An interview. A real one. Not an online form, not silence afterward, a real conversation. His heart pounded. I'll be there. That night, he ironed his shirt in a shelter laundry room. The shirt wasn't perfect. Neither was he, but he did his best. The next morning, he arrived 40 minutes early. Harper Logistics occupied a large warehouse near the edge of the city. Trucks moved in and out. Workers carried clipboards. Forklifts beeped. Marcus stood outside, taking deep breaths. The smell of diesel fuel filled the air. It reminded him of work, real work, the kind that gave days structure. Inside, Daniel greeted him. You made it. Marcus nodded. You were early. I've had practice waiting. Daniel laughed. The interview lasted nearly an hour.
They talked about work history, the employment gap, the classes, the shelter. Marcus answered honestly. Nothing fancy, nothing rehearsed. When it ended, Daniel leaned back. I've got younger applicants. Marcus felt his stomach sink. Daniel continued. They've got cleaner resumes. Marcus looked toward the floor. Then Daniel smiled. But they didn't stop to help me. Marcus looked up. Daniel topped the desk. I can teach skills. He pointed toward Marcus. I can't teach character. Marcus sat frozen. Daniel extended his hand. You start Monday. Marcus couldn't speak, not right away. His throat tightened, his eyes burned. For a second, he worried he might cry. Then he shook Daniel's hand, hard, very hard. Daniel laughed. Easy there. Marcus laughed too. The sound felt strange. He hadn't laughed much lately. Outside, snow drifted through the parking lot. Marcus stood alone beside the building. People passed him. Trucks rolled by. The city kept moving. But Marcus couldn't. He just stood there. Because after years of hearing no, someone had finally said yes. He saved the voicemail. He still has it. The first months weren't easy, not even close. The job paid enough to survive, not enough to breathe. Marcus worked long shifts, studied at night, saved every dollar possible. He stopped buying coffee, stopped buying snacks. Every penny mattered. His coworkers noticed. One of them was a guy named Kevin, 30 years old, loud laugh, good heart. One lunch break, Kevin looked at him. You ever do anything besides work? Marcus smiled, trying to catch up. Catch up to what? Marcus thought about it. To the life I lost. Kevin didn't joke after that. He just nodded. Sometimes understanding doesn't need words. 3 months later, Marcus rented a room. Not an apartment, just a room. Small bed, small dresser, tiny window. But the door locked. The shower worked. The heat stayed on. The first night there, he sat on the edge of the mattress. Nobody else in the room. No shelter noise. No coughing. No shouting. No fear of losing his backpack while sleeping. Just silence. Real silence. The kind he forgot existed. Marcus cried that night. Not because he was sad, because he was tired. The kind of tired that takes years to build. The room felt like a palace. But success didn't arrive all at once. Life kept testing him. His car broke down shortly after he bought it. Medical bills appeared. Hours got cut for several weeks. Every setback felt terrifying because Marcus knew exactly what falling looked like. He had lived there. One evening, he sat alone staring at his bank account. The numbers were low, very low. Fear returned. Not the old fear, a new version. What if it all disappears again? That fear followed him everywhere, to work, to bed, to class, to grocery stores. Trauma doesn't vanish because circumstances improve. Sometimes it stays, waiting. One night, Daniel found Marcus working late. Everyone else had gone home. You heading out? In a minute. Daniel leaned against a desk. You know what's funny? What? You still act homeless. Marcus looked down. Daniel wasn't being cruel, just honest. What do you mean? You never believe you're safe. Marcus didn't answer, because he was right. Daniel continued. You're building something now. What if it falls apart? Daniel smiled. Then you'll build again. Marcus sat quietly. Daniel pointed toward him. That's what you still don't understand. What? You already proved you can survive. The words stayed with him for weeks, maybe months, because Daniel had seen something Marcus hadn't. The strength wasn't in getting the job. The strength was surviving long enough to get it. That realization changed him, slowly. The next year brought promotions, small at first, then bigger. Marcus learned inventory systems, scheduling, operations management. The computer skills from the library suddenly mattered. The classes mattered. The notebooks mattered. All those nights studying while exhausted mattered. Nothing had been wasted, not 1 hour. Meanwhile, his relationship with Emma grew stronger. She graduated high school. Marcus sat in the crowd watching. Sunlight reflected off metal folding chairs. Parents cheered. Cameras flashed. Emma found him afterward, then hugged him harder than ever before. I'm proud of you, Dad. Marcus froze. For years, he believed he had failed her. Those 5 words shattered something heavy inside him. I'm proud of you too, Emma smiled. Neither let go immediately. Some wounds heal quietly. Years passed. The climb continued. Marcus eventually moved into a small apartment, then a larger one. His credit score improved. His savings grew. For the first time in decades, he planned ahead instead of merely surviving today.
Everything looked good. Almost. One thing remained unresolved. A dream he had carried through every shelter night, every library afternoon, every cold morning. A dream he rarely mentioned. A dream tied to the notebooks he filled while homeless. The notebooks nobody had ever seen. And one conversation was about to bring that dream back to life. The dream started in a notebook, a cheap spiral notebook. The cover was bent, several pages were stained from rain. Marcus had carried it through shelters, libraries, bus stations, and long walks across Chicago. Every night he wrote in it, sometimes only a few lines, sometimes several pages. He wrote about people he met, the old veterans, single mothers fighting impossible odds, teenagers sleeping in shelters, workers who lost jobs, people everybody walked past, people everybody forgot. Marcus never intended anyone else to read those pages. Writing helped him stay sane. That was all. One afternoon, Kevin spotted a notebook sitting open on Marcus's desk. "What's this?" Marcus quickly reached for it. "Nothing." Kevin laughed. "Nobody protects nothing that fast." Marcus shook his head. "It's just writing."
Kevin flipped through a few pages, then stopped smiling. He kept reading. A minute passed, then another. Finally, he looked up. "You wrote this?" Marcus nodded. Kevin pointed at the notebook. "This is good." Marcus laughed. "No." "Yeah, it's just stuff." "No," Kevin said. "It's people." That conversation stayed in Marcus's mind. Weeks later, Emma visited his apartment. She noticed a stock of notebooks sitting near a bookshelf. "What are those?" Marcus hesitated, then handed her one. She spent almost an hour reading. The room stayed quiet. Outside, traffic drifted through the open window. Marcus watched her expression change page after page. Sometimes she smiled. Sometimes she looked sad. When she finished, she placed the notebook down carefully. "You should do something with these." Marcus shook his head. "Nah." "Dad?" "No." "Dad?" He laughed. Emma crossed her arms. "People need to read this." Marcus wasn't convinced. For years, he had viewed those notebooks as survival tools, nothing more. But Emma wouldn't let it go. Neither would Kevin. Then Daniel joined them. The three practically formed a team. Every few weeks, someone brought it up. Every time, Marcus avoided the conversation. Until one rainy Saturday. That day, he opened an old notebook, one of the earliest ones. The pages smelled faintly like damp paper. He found an entry from a shelter winter, a night when he had almost given up. A night when he sat outside staring at traffic and wondering if effort mattered anymore. Then he found the next page, the page written after Emma called, the page where hope returned. Marcus read it twice, then 3 times. Something shifted, not outside, inside. The same feeling he experienced before signing up for classes, the same feeling before calling Daniel. Fear, the doorway where change usually waited. 3 weeks later, Marcus made a decision. He gathered every notebook, every page, every story. Then he started typing. Night after night, hour after hour. He worked after work, weekends too. His fingers cramped, his eyes burned. Still, he kept going. Some nights he wanted to quit. The memories hurt. Reliving them wasn't easy. He remembered freezing nights, hunger, loneliness, rejection. But he also remembered kindness. Carol, Eddie, Emma, Daniel, the little boy with the gloves. Every page became a tribute. Months later, he finished, a complete manuscript, more than 300 pages. Marcus stared at the final sentence, then sat back quietly. The room felt still. For years, survival had been the goal. Now he had created something. That felt different, scarier somehow. The next challenge arrived immediately. Nobody wanted to publish it. One rejection came, then another, then 10 more. Some never responded. Others sent polite emails. Thank you, but no. Marcus laughed the first few times. Then it started hurting. Again. The old voice returned. Maybe you're too old. Maybe nobody cares. Maybe it was a stupid idea. The voice sounded familiar. He had heard it before. Outside classrooms, outside interviews, outside opportunities. The voice had always been there. Marcus finally understood something. Confidence wasn't the absence of doubt. Confidence was moving while doubt screamed anyway. So he kept sending submissions. Again, again, again.
Persistence had carried him through homelessness. Why stop now? One morning, an email arrived. Marcus almost ignored it. The subject line looked ordinary. He opened it while eating cereal. Halfway through reading, he froze, then read it again, then again. A small publisher wanted the book. Not a giant company, not millions of dollars, just one opportunity, one chance. Marcus sat there staring at the screen. The cereal became soggy. He didn't notice. Then he called Emma. She answered immediately. "Everything okay?" Marcus couldn't stop smiling. "I think so." "What happened?" His voice cracked. "They said yes." Silence, then a scream loud enough to hurt his ear. Marcus laughed harder than he had in years. The book launched 8 months later. Nobody expected much. Marcus certainly didn't. He hoped a few people might read it, maybe a few hundred, maybe less. Then something surprising happened. Readers connected with it, really connected. The stories felt real because they were. People shared passages online. Church groups discussed it. Community colleges assigned chapters. Libraries invited Marcus to speak. The same kind of libraries that once gave him shelter. One invitation became 5. 5 became 20. Soon Marcus found himself standing before rooms filled with strangers. He told the truth. Nothing polished, nothing fancy. Just truth. People listened. Not because he was extraordinary, because they recognized pieces of themselves. The shame, the fear, the hope, the moments of nearly giving up. Those feelings belonged to everyone. One evening, after a speaking event, a young man approached him, maybe 20 years old, nervous, hands shaking slightly. "I almost didn't come tonight." Marcus nodded. The young man looked down. "I lost my job." Marcus listened. "My apartment too." The young man's eyes filled with tears. "I thought I was the only one." Marcus placed a hand on his shoulder. "No." The young man wiped his face. "Your story helped." Marcus smiled. Those 4 words meant more than any paycheck, more than any review, more than any sales number, because that had always been the point, not success, connection. The years continued. Marcus invested carefully, saved aggressively, started a consulting business, then another small company focused on workforce training. He hired people with employment gaps, people others ignored, people who needed someone to believe in them. His business grew, then grew again. Eventually, Marcus became wealthy, far wealthier than he ever imagined possible. The number in his bank account shocked him sometimes. But money wasn't the biggest change, not even close. The biggest change happened one quiet morning. Marcus was 58 years old. Sunlight filled his kitchen. Coffee brewed nearby. Outside, snow drifted gently across the neighborhood. Chicago looked peaceful. Marcus walked past a hallway mirror, then stopped. Something caught his attention, his reflection. For a long moment he stood there, just looking. The face staring back had wrinkles now, gray hair too. The years had left their marks. But the eyes looked different, steady, calm, present. Marcus realized something. For the first time in nearly 20 years, he recognized himself. Not the factory worker, not the homeless man, not the struggling survivor, just Marcus, whole again. The realization hit harder than expected. His eyes filled with tears. He laughed softly, then wiped them away, because he finally understood. Success never arrived the day he earned money. It arrived the day he stopped measuring himself by what he had lost. That afternoon, he drove across the city, past old streets, past old shelters, past old memories. He stopped outside the library where Carol once worked. A younger librarian stood behind the desk now. Carol had retired. Marcus smiled anyway. Then he donated enough money to expand their workforce learning program, the same program that once helped him. When he left, the winter air felt crisp. The city sounded alive. Car horns, train tracks, distant sirens, all the sounds he once heard while carrying everything he owned in a backpack. Later that evening, Emma visited. Now grown, successful herself, she sat beside him on the porch. Snowflakes drifted beneath streetlights. Neither spoke for a while. Finally, she smiled. "You did it." Marcus looked out across the neighborhood. The warm houses, the glowing windows,
the peaceful street. Then he shook his head. No. Emma laughed. Seriously? Marcus smiled. I survived it. They sat quietly again, a comfortable silence, the kind earned through years, the kind that doesn't need filling. After a while, Emma leaned against his shoulder. Neither spoke. Neither needed to. The city lights shimmered in the distance, and for the first time in a very long time, Marcus felt completely at home. The truth is that most people never see the battles others fight. They see the job, the house, the success. They rarely see the cold nights, the fear, the rejection, or the years spent wondering if effort still matters. Every person carries a story hidden beneath the surface. Sometimes the strongest people are the ones who nearly quit, but chose one more step instead. Wealth isn't always money. Sometimes wealth is dignity returned, peace restored, family rebuilt, a reason to wake up excited for tomorrow. Marcus discovered that the thing he needed most was never luck. It was persistence. Quiet persistence. The kind that keeps moving when nobody is watching.
The kind that survives disappointment without becoming bitter. The kind that refuses to let failure become an identity. If a person can keep showing up, keep learning, keep trying, and keep believing that tomorrow might be different, then possibilities remain alive. The world changes because ordinary people decide not to stop. How different might your own future become if you refuse to quit one step before the breakthrough? The strongest wealth in the world is a person who refuses to give up on themselves. The story is now complete.